The moment you realize that some stories are meant to remain untold is the moment you reclaim your true power. In our age of endless exposure, the rarest wisdom lies not in what we reveal, but in what we choose to protect. We exist in an era obsessed with revelation, where every thought demands expression and every experience seeks an audience. The impulse to bare our souls, to dissect our struggles, to broadcast our aspirations has become second nature. Yet authentic wisdom whispers a different truth. What matters most should be guarded most carefully. As Master Sharahini observes, the more sacred something is, the more silently it should be protected. Each time you expose your essence to indiscriminate ears, you surrender fragments of your sovereignty. You invite misinterpretation, manipulation, and discord into spaces meant for growth. The harsh reality stands before us. Not every soul harbors pure intentions. Not every listener offers safe harbor for your truth. Master the art of selective silence, and you will command your vitality, your tranquility, and your destiny. In existence, silence transcends the mere absence of sound. It embodies the manifestation of authority. Our contemporary landscape compels constant sharing. Individuals broadcast half-formed thoughts, display fresh wounds before healing begins, and announce journeys before taking their initial steps. Yet profound wisdom resides in holding back. Tremendous force lives within quietude because the fundamental truth remains unchanged. Your narrative belongs to you alone. Your story carries sacred weight. It is not public entertainment, but a private covenant between you and existence itself, between your deepest self and the lessons you came here to master. Still, society conditions us to justify ourselves, to defend our choices, to chronicle our lives, as though we require the world's permission to inhabit them. But true wisdom needs no authorization. It moves with silent assurance. First principle, your journey is not meant for all to witness. Us ancient teachings remind us that sanctity must remain hidden until its moment of revelation arrives. Your life experiences, your struggles, your breakthroughs, your moments of clarity, all carry sacred essence. Yet modern culture pushes universal openness, constant sharing, perpetual availability. We mistake transparency without discernment for wisdom, when in reality it becomes exposure. And exposure invites not merely understanding, but distortion, jealousy, manipulation, and potential harm. Comprehend this fundamental truth. Not every person you encounter deserves access to your narrative. Some lack the capacity to hold your reality with care. Others seek your wounds rather than your wellness. Many will weaponize your vulnerability for control, criticism, or competition rather than connection. Your evolution is not entertainment. It is not performance. It represents spiritual transformation, and spiritual matters demand reverence. Consider the newly planted seed. Would you unearth it daily to display its progress? Certainly not. You nourish it. You shield it from storms. You provide light and silence for growth. Your personal journey operates identically. Speaking your truth prematurely, excessively, or to unsuitable audiences resembles exposing tender shoots to harsh elements before they establish roots. You owe your narrative to no one who merely asks. You owe your struggles to no one whose curiosity lacks compassion. You owe your inner landscape to no one who hasn't earned your confidence. Most crucially, you need not be understood to be complete. The natural desire to be seen, to be known, to hear someone say, "I comprehend your experience," is human. Yet here lies a critical error many make, confusing visibility with validation. Sharing your truth with someone doesn't guarantee they possess the capacity to honor it respectfully. Listening doesn't automatically create worthiness to receive. Genuine power emerges when you cease explaining and begin preserving. Allow your life to speak its own language. Let your development communicate through your discipline. Let your peace resonate through your presence. Those truly meant to understand your story will perceive it in your bearing, not merely in your words. Consider also this reality: portions of your journey continue unfolding. When shared prematurely, you risk crystallizing them within others' limited perspectives. They begin seeing you not as who you're becoming, but as who you once were. When too many minds hold that outdated version, transcending it becomes increasingly difficult. Therefore, protect your becoming. Honor the version of yourself still forming in silence. Silence differs from secrecy. It creates sacred space. When you navigate this world with quiet dignity, you conserve energy. You heighten intuition. You strengthen inner direction and gradually recognize that not everyone belongs in your company. Not everyone should witness your process, and not everyone deserves to hear your story. Share your narrative only when the ground proves fertile. Speak only when your words can plant goodness, and trust this truth: your silence is not concealment. It is restoration. It represents choosing yourself, your peace, your boundaries, your evolution over the world's clamor. Because not everyone should know your journey. This isn't rejection. It's protection. Understand that some will listen to your story only to use it against you. Some will misunderstand because they haven't yet understood themselves. Some will interpret your openness as weakness. Others, without malice but through ignorance, will project their fears onto your path. Therefore, guard your story as you would protect flame from wind. Speak only to those who have earned the right to your truth, those who won't distort, judge. Wisdom, carriers listen with stillness, not noise. They hold your words with care, not mere curiosity. You owe no one your story. The moment you realize this, you begin reclaiming your authority. Second principle, excessive sharing diminishes inner fortitude. Quiet strength exists in the ability to contain your experiences without needing to display them. Modern life has forgotten this strength. We're surrounded by invitations to speak, to post, to vent, to narrate every moment. People believe that expressing every thought, struggle, and feeling represents authenticity. But they don't realize that constant expression can become spiritual hemorrhaging of energy, clarity, and power. When you speak too much about what you're still healing from, you interrupt the process. When you voice dreams too early, you expose them to opinions of those never meant to shape them. When you speak merely to be heard, you may lose the sacred silence where genuine understanding grows. Oversharing isn't always openness. Often it cries out for validation. Here's the truth: external validation is never sustainable. It becomes addictive. You share more and more, hoping someone will understand you deeply enough to finally grant you peace. But peace isn't given by others. It's earned in stillness, cultivated through self-trust. When you rely on the outside world to hold your story, you grant them power to shape your identity. Slowly, you confuse your inner voice with their opinions. You lose direction, feel scattered. Worst of all, you no longer feel sovereign within your own experience. This is how oversharing weakens inner strength, not suddenly, but gradually. With each unnecessary confession, each over-explained feeling, each unguarded dream, you surrender pieces of your inner sanctuary. You forget ancient discipline. What is sacred must be protected, not performed. True inner strength is not loud. It doesn't demand to be heard. It's felt in your posture, presence, silence. When you cultivate this strength, you become selective with words. You understand that not every thought must become speech. Not every emotion requires explanation. Not every pain needs public processing. You learn to observe without reacting, to feel without spilling, to grow without announcing. This is not repression. It's refinement. Great wisdom lies in choosing when to speak and when to remain silent. Maturity means knowing that the most profound transformations happen in solitude, when you face yourself with no one watching. Oversharing often stems from fear of being alone with our experiences. But understand, being alone differs from being lonely. In solitude, your soul gains strength. In quietude, you hear your inner master's whisper. Guard your words as you would guard flame. Too much wind and it flickers. Too many voices and it vanishes. Speak not to be seen but to serve. Speak not for attention but to offer truth. And speak only when your silence has already taught you what your words should say. Oversharing is easy, but restraint is mastery. In that mastery, you become unshakable. Every word carries energy. Each time you share what's still forming within you, your pain, dreams, plans, you expend spiritual energy. If timing is wrong or the audience careless, that energy isn't honored. It's lost. Oversharing isn't always honesty. Sometimes it's a hidden plea for validation. But external validation cannot sustain you. When you depend on others' understanding of your journey to feel confident in it, you make your growth contingent on their approval. Inner strength builds in silence. It grows in solitude. When you protect what's forming inside, you allow it to mature. When it's ready, when it has grown strong enough to stand alone, then and only then may it be spoken, not as a question, but as truth. Third principle, your story continues being written. There exists a profound truth we often forget when we speak of ourselves too hastily. Your story continues being written. You are not a finished chapter, but a living manuscript unfolding breath by breath, choice by choice. When we rush to define ourselves, to tell others who we are, what we've endured, or where we're heading, we trap ourselves in the past. We speak from incompleteness and begin identifying with moments that were never meant to define us. A wound still healing is not yet a story. It's a process. A dream still forming is not yet a message. It's a whisper. A transformation in motion is not yet truth. It's sacred silence taking shape. When you share your story while it's still unfolding, you invite the world to comment on something you haven't fully understood yet. Often their words, opinions, judgments, even well-meaning encouragement can distort your clarity. Think of a sculptor shaping stone. Would he invite crowds to critique the sculpture when half formed? Would he pause after every strike to explain what it will become? No, he carves in solitude. He trusts the process. He knows that until complete, it's not meant for the world's eyes. The same applies to your life. You may feel tempted to voice your struggles, justify your decisions, explain your direction, especially when people don't understand you. But understand this. You owe no one explanations while you're still evolving. You need not convince anyone of who you're becoming. Seeds don't announce themselves to soil. They simply root quietly. Flowers don't explain how they bloomed. They simply appear. You too must allow yourself the grace to grow uninterrupted. Many struggle because they prematurely define their identity. They declare, I am this, or I've always been that, forgetting that every day offers a new page. They write final sentences before stories have had chances to unfold. They limit potential by boxing themselves into the familiar, the already known. But your story is not static. It's alive. You constantly rewrite yourself through actions, habits, decisions, silence. Today's version may differ vastly from who you become next year. Don't let yesterday's chapters bind tomorrow's possibilities. This is why silence proves powerful when your path is still forming. It protects from outside interference. It shields from expectations' weight. It allows your spirit to breathe, test, fall, learn, and rise again without performance pressure. When the time is right, your life will speak for itself. Results will speak. Alignment will speak. Heart, peace will speak. You won't need explanations because transformation will be obvious. Until then, honor your current stage. Trust your unfolding's timing. Remember, you're not here to be fully understood by others. You're here to be fully experienced by yourself. Hold your story close. Let it evolve in your own presence's safety. Let it breathe, stretch, stumble. Most importantly, let it continue. Because your journey's most beautiful part hasn't been written yet. The world doesn't need your explanation. It needs your evolution. You are not finished. You are becoming. Every breath is a sentence. Every choice is a paragraph. Your life continues unfolding. So don't speak too soon. Don't define yourself by the story's middle. Many cling to outgrown identities simply because they declared them too early, too loudly, to too many people. Let yourself evolve without announcing it. Let your life speak louder than your words. When transformation is complete, there will be no need for explanation. Your presence will explain everything. Her fourth principle, People will project their fears onto you. One of the most subtle yet powerful forms of interference you'll face is this others projecting their fears onto you. It often begins quietly. You share a dream and someone says that's too risky. You speak of a change you feel called to make and they ask, are you sure that's realistic? You express confidence in your growth and they warn, be careful not to fly too high. Initially, it may seem like concern, may sound like wisdom, but look deeper and you'll see they're not warning you about your path. They're speaking from their limitations. Their fears are not facts. Their doubts are not truths. Their caution is not your compass. People speak through filters of their own experiences. If someone has failed, they may fear your success. If someone has been hurt, they may fear your openness. If someone has chosen safety over growth, they may fear your courage. This is projection's nature. It's not about you. It's about them. It's their unhealed fear dressed as your future, their insecurity wrapped in advice. If you're not deeply rooted in yourself, you may begin carrying their fear as your own. You must learn to protect your mind from this subtle invasion. When someone projects fear, you needn't absorb it. You can listen with compassion, but remain unmoved in your clarity. Remember, just because someone cannot imagine what's possible for you doesn't mean it isn't possible. A caged bird may warn you not to fly too far, not because flight is dangerous, but because freedom is unfamiliar to them. There's a story in ancient martial philosophy, a young monk trained in silence for many years. One day he announced his desire to leave the monastery to climb a great mountain. The older monks warned him, no one has survived the journey. You will die. But the young monk bowed respectfully and said, with respect, your fear comes from never having tried. I will walk with faith, not with your memory of failure. The young monk left. He struggled. He fell, but he also climbed. One day he returned transformed, not because he rejected the elders' wisdom, but because he didn't accept the weight of their fear. You must be like this. Listen to others, but only accept what aligns with your path. You can respect their journey without allowing their shadows to block your light. Be mindful of whose voice becomes your inner voice. If you surround yourself with those who always see danger, your vision will blur. If you share dreams with those who only see impossibility, your spirit will shrink. If you allow the fearful to guide your steps, you'll walk in circles instead of forward. When someone doubts you, don't become defensive. Become still. Ask yourself, is this truth or fear? Is this reflection or projection? If it's fear, return it silently with love, but with boundaries, because your journey is yours alone. You're not here to prove others wrong. You're here to prove your soul right. Their fear is their lesson. Your courage is your path. Never trade your wings for someone else's cage. Be cautious who you share your vision with, not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting the seed before it blooms. Many will look at your dream and say that's not realistic. But what they mean is it wasn't possible for me. Their fear is not your limitation. Their doubt is not your destiny. People speak through the lens of their experience. If their experience has been shaped by fear, failure, or regret, they may try to place those patterns onto you. Not to hurt you, but to comfort themselves. Be kind, be understanding, but be unshaken. One of the quietest but most powerful forces that can derail progress is others' fear. Not your own fear, but theirs. What makes this dangerous is that it often hides behind masks of advice, concern, or even love. When you begin to grow, evolve, or make bold decisions, many around you will unconsciously reflect their inner fears back onto you. If you're not mindful, you'll begin carrying their fear as if it were your own. It begins innocently. You mention wanting to start a business, and someone says, be careful. Most businesses fail. You speak about taking a break to pursue spiritual clarity, and someone replies, isn't that a waste of time? You share your dream to move to a new country, and another says, what if you can't handle it? At first glance, it seems like they care, but in truth, they're not seeing your path. They're reacting from the limits of their life experience. This is projection. When someone places the weight of their fears onto your shoulders. Not because they mean harm, but because they haven't yet confronted those fears within themselves. They're not warning you because your dream is too big. They're warning you because they never gave themselves permission to dream that big. Their caution comes not from vision, but from lack of courage. If you're not conscious, their voice will become your voice. Remember this, their fear is not your future. Just because someone failed at something doesn't mean you will. Just because someone regrets taking risks doesn't mean you should avoid them. Just because someone chooses safety over expansion doesn't mean that's the wiser path, only that it was the easier one for them. Be respectful of others' experiences, but don't let their emotional history become your spiritual ceiling. There's a deep lesson here. People don't see the world as it is. They see it as they are. When they look at you walking a path they were too afraid to follow, their discomfort will often be masked as logic, rationality, or concern. They might say, "I'm just trying to protect you," but often they're only trying to protect the version of you that made them feel comfortable. The version that didn't challenge their limits. You must grow beyond the need to be understood by everyone. It's not your duty to shrink your vision just to keep others comfortable. It's not your role to carry emotional baggage others have chosen not to unpack. Walk your path with awareness. When people offer you their fears, don't argue. Don't defend. Simply return the fear silently with gratitude, but don't adopt it as your own. A person who has never flown will always warn you about the sky. A person who has never left the ground will always speak of gravity, not of flight. That's their truth. But it doesn't have to become yours. Trust your inner compass more than outer noise. Hold fast to your vision, especially when it's misunderstood. Most importantly, know this. You're not here to carry other people's fears. You're here to break through them and rise above. This fifth principle, the power of mystery, protects your energy. There exists an unseen power in remaining silent, in not revealing every step of your journey, in choosing not to speak until the right time. This is the power of mystery, and it's not to be confused with secrecy or deception. Mystery is a form of energetic protection, the sacred space between who you are and how much of yourself the world is permitted to see. When something is exposed too early, it becomes vulnerable. The more you reveal, the more energy you give away, the more susceptible you become to external forces, opinions, doubts, resistance, even envy. Every time you speak about something still forming, a vision, a plan, a personal transformation, you make it accessible to energies that may not support its growth. Just as a seed is planted in darkness to sprout in peace, your evolution also requires a season of silence. In a world that encourages constant visibility, mystery has become rare, but it's not outdated. It's the discipline of those who walk the higher path, the ones who know that true power doesn't announce itself. It moves quietly. It builds silently. It acts when the time is right. When the results appear, no explanation is needed. Mystery conserves your energy. When you're mysterious, you're not performing for anyone. You're not explaining your process. You're not convincing others to understand you. You're not seeking validation. You're simply focused inward, steady, and present. This focus becomes your shield. It allows you to see clearly without being seen too clearly. It allows you to move freely without interference. It allows you to grow in strength before being exposed to judgment. There's also spiritual intelligence in not being fully understood. When people think they know everything about you, they stop seeing you. They categorize you, label you, put you into boxes based on their limited perceptions. But when you remain a little unknown, a little undefined, they cannot limit you. They must observe you. They must pay attention. This isn't manipulation, it's mastery. It's choosing to walk with presence rather than noise. Many fear being misunderstood, so they over-explain. They fear being misjudged, so they overshare. But in doing so, So they lose their mystery and along with it, their energetic clarity. When you're constantly explaining yourself, you're not walking your path, you're defending it. But a path that is true needs no defense. It simply needs to be walked. The wise don't move in the light of approval. They move in the shadows of purpose. They speak less and observe more. They know when to share and when to protect. They understand that what is valuable must be hidden, not forever, but until it's strong enough to withstand the world. So when people ask why you don't talk about your goals or why you don't tell everyone what you're working on, let your silence be your answer. Let your consistency speak louder than words. Let your results become your voice. Remember, lions don't roar while they hunt. Warriors don't shout during training. Masters don't explain every movement. They know that mystery protects energy, and energy, when protected, becomes unstoppable. You owe the world your presence, not your blueprint. Share only what serves. Hold back what protects, and above all, honor your mystery. Because in that quiet space, your true power is being refined. There's great power in being underestimated. When you speak less, people assume less. In their assumptions, you find freedom. You're free to act without expectation, free to grow without interruption, free to move silently and strike with precision. This isn't deception, it's wisdom. It's the strategy of the monk, the warrior, the master. They don't speak of what they're doing. They simply do it. They don't show their strength. They hold it within. Mystery doesn't mean you're hiding something. It means you're protecting something sacred. Sixth principle, speak only to those who can elevate you. Words are not just sounds, they're seeds. When spoken into the right environment, they grow into clarity, strength, and transformation. But when cast into the wrong environment, they wither or worse, they're used against you. This is why it matters not only what you say, but who you say it to. There are people who can elevate your thinking, your energy, your spirit, and there are people who can drain it, not necessarily out of malice, but out of limitation. You must learn to distinguish the two. Not everyone has the depth to hold what you carry. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to witness your pain without judging it, or to hear your vision without secretly competing with it. When you speak to someone who lacks awareness, your wisdom may sound like arrogance. Your vulnerability may be met with criticism. Your dreams may trigger their insecurity. What you hoped would be a moment of connection becomes a moment of disconnection. If this happens often enough, you begin to shut down, not because you're weak, but because you're trying to bloom in the wrong soil. You must understand this. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. You don't plant seeds in barren ground and blame the seed for not growing. You don't share sacred thoughts with those who listen only to reply, not to understand. You don't open your soul to a heart that hasn't yet learned to hold its own. There are people who will make you feel heavy after every conversation, not because of what was said, but because of what was not received. There are those who will offer advice they've never lived, give opinions they've never questioned, and place their fears onto your freedom. These aren't evil people. They're simply not the ones meant to walk closely with you. But there are also people, rare yet real, whose presence lifts you without words. When you speak with them, something inside you expands. They don't interrupt to insert their ego. They listen not to respond, but to reflect. They don't compete with your light. They protect it. These people are sacred mirrors. They remind you of who you are when the world's noise makes you forget. Find these people, and when you do, speak freely. Not because you need to be heard, but because in their presence your voice becomes clearer. In their stillness, your thoughts find space to breathe. In their wisdom, your truth becomes stronger. Speaking to the right people isn't about status, intelligence, or agreement. It's about energetic alignment. You don't have to think the same way, but the intention must be pure. The space must be safe. The listening must be conscious, because only then can your words rise instead of collapse. If you don't yet have such people in your life, then remain silent for a while longer. Let your solitude protect you until your circle can elevate you. Use the quiet to strengthen your discernment, to know the difference between noise and nourishment, between connection and convenience, between someone who wants to hear your voice and someone who is ready to hold your truth. Don't waste your sacred thoughts on careless ears. Speak only to those who can elevate you, because your words matter, your energy matters, your story matters. Protect it, preserve it, and share it only where it can rise. Your words are seeds, and not all soil is fertile. If you plant your truth in someone who doesn't know how to hold it, it won't grow. It will be wasted. So choose your listeners with care. Speak to those who have done their inner work, who won't compete with your healing or envy your success or shame your struggles. These are the ones who will water your growth, not poison it. When you find such people, speak honestly. But until then, remain rooted in silence. A seventh principle, stillness is the companion of spiritual strength. Thus, in a world addicted to noise, stillness has become rare. We're constantly bombarded with movement, opinions, distractions, and the pressure to act, speak, and respond. Yet the deepest strength, the kind that transforms a person from within, is cultivated not in chaos, but in stillness. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the presence of awareness. It's the deliberate practice of pausing, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. In stillness, you begin to see what is real and what is illusion. You begin to distinguish between reaction and response, between urgency and importance, between the world's noise and the quiet truth within your soul. There's a kind of power that is not loud. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't demand validation. It exists in silence, in the way you carry yourself, the way you breathe, the way you observe. That is spiritual strength, and stillness is its foundation. The reason many feel lost, anxious, or overwhelmed is not because they lack answers. It's because they never sit still long enough to hear them. They run from one distraction to another, always seeking something external to calm their internal chaos. But the soul doesn't speak in noise, it whispers. If you're not still, you won't hear it. Stillness requires discipline. It's easier to speak than to remain silent. It's easier to react than to pause. But the one who masters stillness masters their energy. They're not shaken by every situation. They don't collapse under pressure. They know that storms come and go, but the mountain remains unmoved. They have become the mountain. Spiritual strength is not proved by how much you speak about your beliefs or how loudly you defend your path. It's revealed in how you live, how you respond to conflict, how you carry pain, how you treat others when no one is watching. These things are not developed in the spotlight. They're forged in the quiet hours, in solitude, in reflection, in moments of deep inner presence. Stillness also teaches humility. When you sit with your own thoughts, your own fears, your own stories without distraction, you begin to see yourself clearly, not as the world has defined you, not as your ego has constructed you, but as you truly are. This clarity humbles you, and that humility becomes your strength because it roots you in truth. The greatest warriors are not those who fight the most battles, but those who have learned when not to fight. The greatest masters are not those who speak the most, but those who speak only when silence no longer serves. They're not led by impulse. They're guided by stillness. So if your life feels chaotic, if your mind feels restless, return to stillness, not to escape the world, but to remember who you are within it. Sit, breathe, observe. Withdraw your energy from the outer noise, and you'll discover an inner current, steady, calm, powerful. That's where your strength has always been. Stillness doesn't make you invisible. It makes you untouchable. It shields your peace, sharpens your awareness, and deepens your connection to life itself. It's not a sign of doing less. It's a sign of becoming more. In stillness, you stop chasing power and you become it. When you can walk with your wounds and not need the world to see them. When you can carry your vision and not need applause. When you can hold your truth without performing it, then you're walking the path of inner mastery. Stillness is not weakness. It's discipline. It's the art of being unmoved by noise, undisturbed by opinion, and untouched by chaos. It's where you meet yourself fully, honestly, and deeply. In that stillness, you discover a new kind of strength, the kind that doesn't shout but simply is. Final message: you don't need to tell everyone your story. You don't need to explain your pain. You don't need to justify your peace. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to walk your path with courage, with clarity, and with quiet power. So protect your inner world. Let your silence teach. Let your life be the loudest thing about you. Because in the end, it's not the ones who talk the most that are the most powerful. It's the ones who walk in silence but leave echoes behind them. There will come a time on your journey when you realize not everything needs to be said. Not every story needs to be told. Not every truth needs to be shared. And in that moment, something shifts within you. You begin to understand that silence is not a sign of weakness. It's the signature of wisdom. That mystery is not about hiding. It's about protecting. That restraint is not a limitation. It's a form of spiritual power. The more you evolve, the less you will explain. The more grounded you become, the less approval you seek. And the more peaceful you feel inside, the less you need the world to understand you. Because what you carry within is not for display. It's for devotion. Your energy, your path, your healing, your vision. These are sacred. And sacred things are not thrown into the crowd. They're nurtured, guarded, and revealed only to those who can honor them. So let the world wonder about you. Let your silence echo louder than noise. Let your life be your message and your presence be your proof. You don't need to tell everyone your story. You simply need to live it fully, quietly, and fearlessly. And in doing so, your silence will teach more than your words ever could.